Hey, Politan, great to have you with us tonight here on Closing Arguments. Years ago, I was in Redwood City at the trial of Scott Peterson. He was accused of murdering his pregnant wife, Lacey, and their unborn son, who they had already named Connor. I saw the evidence, heard the arguments. I was convinced beyond any and all reasonable doubt that Scott Peterson was guilty, and the jurors in that case agreed and convicted Scott Peterson. He went to death row. He was considered the worst of the worst. Scott Peterson's been litigating ever since, got himself off of death row. He's now, I guess, in general population with the rest of the criminals in California. And now he's trying to get a new trial. And at the center of all of this, there he is. That's him actually in court Friday, trying to get a new trial. There he is. I'm looking at his hair, a little salt and pepper. He's getting older, getting close to the big 5-0. He's got his mask on because Scott wants to keep everyone safe around him, right? That's what he does. Keeps the people closest to him safe. Looks like he might have a little boot on his leg. I'm not sure what's going on there. Anyhow, he's in court. But this hearing is not really about Scott Peterson and what he did or didn't do, believe it or not. This hearing is about one of the jurors. And when we were covering this case back in 2004, there was one juror that just stuck out from the rest. Now, there were no cameras in the courtroom, and even if they were, we wouldn't put the cameras on the jury. But this juror, juror number 7, was the one that everyone was talking about throughout the trial, most notably because of her hair. She had this signature hair that you're seeing, and she got a nickname because no one knew their real names, or we wouldn't talk about their real names on the air. She was known as Strawberry Shortcake. Her name is Richelle Nice, and now Scott Peterson is alleging that juror number 7, Richelle Nice, engaged in juror misconduct so egregious that all these years later, 18 years later, Scott Peterson deserves a brand new trial, a second bite at the apple. 12 new jurors to decide and hear the evidence that I heard. The evidence isn't going to be different from the prosecution. It'll be the same evidence that convinced me and 12 jurors. Anyhow, let's bring in Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter to talk about what's happening out in California, because this is significant, this is important, this is real. I mean, there is a chance here that he could get a new trial. Let's begin, though, with juror number 7, Richelle Nice. I just remember, Chanley, that we all were talking about her throughout the trial because of her look. She was young. What can you tell us about Richelle Nice, juror number 7?
Well, she was about 34 years old when she was seated as a juror. She was an alternate juror, Vinny, one of the 6 selected after several weeks of jury selection, and she was not brought in to make a decision until this case went to deliberations. It was given to the jury. She replaced one of the deliberating jurors. Then she stepped in and became one of those 12 making that decision. And so, of course, like you said, she was known for her hair color, and she was very vocal after the conviction of Scott Peterson. She did many interviews. In fact, she was questioned today about an interview she did with Dr. Oz soon after about the alleged domestic abuse she suffered before becoming a juror. But also, she did in 2006 an exclusive interview with People magazine, Vinny, where she actually talked about letters that she wrote to Scott Peterson on death row in California. Extraordinarily, 17 letters, Vinny, that she wrote, very personal information exchanged between the two of them. And she told People magazine that her therapist advised her to do this. She said that again today on the stand, by the way, and that this was a part of her healing process to go through the trauma of what she had to sit through as a juror. But enlightening there, we expect to hear from that People magazine writer in this trial this week, Vinny, for the defense. And also she co-authored a book called We the Jury with 6 other jurors in 2007, where they talk about how the trial affected their life, and they had no regrets for sending him to death row.
Yeah, I remember when they were on their book tour, they came by Sirius XM. I was doing the Court TV morning radio show and spent about 2 hours with Richelle and a couple of the other jurors who were making the rounds. They were in New York, sat down with them, and yet there was no doubt in their minds from the beginning. Okay, let's get to the hearing now. The defense called her, right? They called her as a witness, but she's kind of an adversarial witness, to say the least, to their plight. What was the defense asking her about? What was the defense going after her about?
Well, she was on the stand starting on Friday, Vinny. She just actually left the stand there in California. But yes, direct, because the defense, again, has the burden to show misconduct and bias on her part. So here's some of the major themes over the last couple of days of what she was questioned intensely on this direct examination, Vinny. They really focused on her questionnaire answers, that juror questionnaire where she said she's never been a victim of a crime, even though she had filed a restraining order against a boyfriend's ex-girlfriend. They also questioned her about her use of the nickname Little Man, which she called baby Connor, but she also called her own son. She has 4 sons, Little Man at the time. They questioned her about her financial status. And she had a financial hardship, but yet she said she could still serve as a juror. And then she wanted to also profit afterwards, according to the defense, with this book deal and all these interviews. They also questioned her about her extramarital affairs she had personally experienced and how that biased her against Scott Peterson. And then, of course, the letter she wrote to Peterson where she allegedly used the word little man and asked him why men cheat. Here's a little example, though, of how she was very consistent, though, in her response as to why she didn't include in her questionnaire her previous experiences with domestic abuse. And here's what she says to the attorney. She says, I'll say it again, I didn't write it in my questionnaire because it never crossed my mind, ever. It wasn't done intentionally, it didn't cross my mind. Well, on cross-examination of her today, again, a friendly cross-examination by the prosecution here, these are some of the things they brought up. That questionnaire, Vinny, it was 20 years ago, it was long, it didn't define any of the terms like defendant or plaintiff or what a crime was when she answered those questions, and that she actually was excused at one point as a juror, but Garrigo said, no, Your Honor, let's bring her back, ask her more questions about hardship, and then she was seated as one of those jurors. She also said that her therapist told her to write to Scott Peterson, and then again, this restraining order never crossed her mind. Here's how this exchange left for that cross, Vinny. I thought this was interesting for the prosecution. It says, you didn't think of yourself as a defendant? And she said, no, I wasn't, and I'm still not a victim. Had that incident crossed your mind, you would have disclosed it on that questionnaire. Yes. Did you ever have any bias of Scott when selected as a juror? Nope. Did you listen to all of the evidence in the case? Absolutely. Did you decide the case on just the evidence in the courtroom? Absolutely. And that's how the day ended. She was released, Vinny, but still on call in case she needed to be recalled.
Yeah, one point that you brought out there, I think, is extremely significant. She was excused but brought back by the defense because throughout this trial, when we were covering it, everyone was wondering, ooh, I wonder if Strawberry Shortcake has a crush on Scott Peterson because he's so handsome. And that's why the defense wanted her. They wanted a young woman because they thought that she would just be enamored by Scott Peterson, God's gift to young women back around the turn of the century. Unbelievable. All right, Chanley, great reporting. Thank you so much for all those details. Those are important. Let's bring in our think tank tonight. Joining us in New York City, former senior homicide prosecutor Bernarda Villalona, in Atlanta, Georgia, criminal defense attorney Michael Bixson, and in Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Al Wunsch III. Great to see everyone tonight. It's amazing. And Michael Bixson, you may have this problem with the women. You know, they're just Michael Bixson. The first time we booked him on the show, I almost said no, because I'm not supposed to have guests who are better looking than the host on the show. That's just a rule, Michael, that I have. But I made an exception for you. I made an exception for you, and I'm comfortable having you on the show. Okay.
Thank you.
Bernarda, is there anything here, anything as a reason to give this guy a brand new trial 18 years later because of what Richelle Nice did or did not do on that questionnaire?
So as of now, from what I heard from Richelle Nice, her answers are still consistent. There was nothing intentional in her answers or of not stating that she was a victim. She gave an explanation. She didn't consider herself as a victim or as a defendant. And also, more importantly, she said that she based her verdict on the evidence and nothing else. The question is going to be when they bring those other jurors in and to be questioned by the prosecutor and the defense attorney to determine whether there was anything that was said by her about her past that affected the deliberation. So we're going to have to wait and see to hear what else was said in that jury deliberation room that may have affected the trial. But as of now, I don't see any grounds for reversing his conviction.
Michael Bixson, let me play for you Janie Peterson, Scott Peterson's sister-in-law, who's been a strong advocate for him. And I understand family members will do that. Someone needs to be that person when you feel there's been a wrongful conviction. Here she is talking about this issue to Ted Rollins earlier today.
Well, every single juror in a criminal case makes a difference because you need a unanimous verdict, especially in a capital case. So absolutely she was a force. Every one of those 12 jurors was a force and needed to be truthful on their questionnaire and needed to be impartial.
All right, Michael, that's the stance of the defense and the Peterson family. They feel that she was not fair, she was not impartial, she was out to get him because of whatever bias that she brought into that jury room.
Yeah, well, I absolutely agree with their contention that it just takes one, and it absolutely does. One person could have made the difference in this trial. Regardless of whatever the evidence was, could one person have changed the outcome? Yes, and I think the fact that she had a domestic violence case where she was pregnant 3 years before this is extremely relevant. I think it's reversible error. It's hard for me to believe what she says on the stand at this point when you have a case 3 years prior where she's pregnant and getting beaten and doesn't admit it in the stand during her voir dire. And I think it's extremely relevant. I think it's extremely important. And I think it should have been brought up at the time.
Al Wunsch, your thoughts. How big of a deal is this? Could this, in fact, overturn a conviction from 18 years ago and force prosecutors to try the case again?
Well, I'm still feeling victimized from the ugly comment that I got from you earlier.
No, it was. I said nothing, Al. I said nothing about you.
Maid, never the bride.
Al,
right?
We search for the truth on this show. I mean, come on, Michael Bixson. Just look at the guy.
I'm looking at him, okay, but you know, Vin, you and I have been together for a long time, my friend, and I feel that the bloom is off the rose, and I'm a little upset about that. But
okay,
notwithstanding,
put that aside. Put that aside. Let's get to this case. This is
the jury. The situation with regards to the jury questionnaire. That is so important to these cases, and it's so imperative that a juror tells the truth. And if they lie and they lie something significant, that is error.
Is this significant? Is this significant? She claims that she doesn't consider herself a victim of a crime in that scenario.
Except though that doesn't really make a lot of sense. I mean, I know domestic violence is not necessarily a crime. It's a civil statute in most jurisdictions. In New Jersey, it's civil. Okay, so it's not considered criminal. So it's not a it's preponderance of the evidence and things along those sides. But you have a woman here who really has done everything humanly possible to get on that jury. And she looks like she had a motive to get there and a motive to make things work for her. And then she profited from it. So like there is a lot of problems that I see with regards to this case with her doing what she did. And, from the standpoint of like the only thing I can do is trust that the juror is going to tell the truth. And if the juror lies like this, and we're seeing this more and more now, and it's very troublesome to anyone defending a case. And I'm not saying he's not guilty. And I'm not saying that if they try this case again, he will not be found guilty. It'll be just a travesty that would have to go forward and go to that poor family to, have to see this go through this whole, rigmarole again. But everyone is entitled to a fair trial. And if a juror is going to lie and say, oh, it was no big deal, it was enough of a big deal to go and make the report in the first place. And how you don't remember something from 3 years ago, that just doesn't make any sense to me.
Bernarda, I'll give you the final word here tonight on this.
Look, the judge has to find that it was an actual lie. As of now, we don't have any evidence that it was a lie. She gave her explanation. So if it comes off credible to the judge, a judge doesn't want to disturb a verdict. So I think the verdict is going to stand. The defense can't have buyer's remorse. He released her and then reinstated her. So now he has buyer's remorse beyond how it turned out.
We shall see. All right. They're with us the whole hour. Bernarda Villalona, Michael Bixson, and Al Wunsch, all here for the next hour. When we